Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very snowy edition of the BookTrib live chat. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to John Davidson, journalist and author of the fabulous new book, The Obedient Assassin, the novel based on a true story. Personally, I loved this book. I devoured it in a single day. I couldn't put it down. And national best-selling author Stephen Harrigan says it's like reading of The Obedient Assassin is like watching a good Hitchcock film, and he's right. It really is. The book is about Ramón Mercader and the assassination of Leon Trotsky, the Marxist revolutionary and theorist. And Mercader was a revolutionary soldier in the Spanish Civil War when his mother, a Soviet operative, plucked him out and assigned him to a top secret mission during which he assumed an identity as a Belgian aristocrat. And the book takes you from Spain to Paris to Mexico City. It includes colorful characters like Frida Kahlo, Diego Rivera. It's fascinating time in history, and it reads like a World War II spy noir. And there's a lovely, there's a love story in it, family trauma, politics, and more. And it's all real. It all happened. And John spent 10 years researching the role. In addition, he's the author of the January 2014 cover story of Harper's Magazine. It's called You Rang. And for the story, he went undercover in the Harvard of Business Schools. So he's a very interesting guy. And today we're giving away a copy of The Obedient Assassin. So after the chat, please head over to booktrib.com to enter to win. And remember to sign up at booktrib.com to get all the new information about live chats, giveaways, and original content reviews and more. So without further ado, please help me welcome John Davidson.
I just saw part of a question. Let's see. Curious over to you. Um, the question was that I'd spent 10 years working on this novel, and do I think all of the work paid off? Yes, I do. I think that it. Yes, I think I think I'm happy with the book. I think it's a great read. I think it addresses some important subjects, and yeah, I think that when you spend that much time, there's always a bit of insecurity of when something comes out. I think any book coming out, there's some anxiety. Will it be good? Is it worth it? But yes, I'm hopeful. I think it's a good book. As for historical accuracy, I would say mm, 90%. There's some things in the book that are imagined um, uh, that that I don't know that happened, but I just suppose that they happened. So yes, it's very accurate, down to the names of people and clothes that people wore and the colors of cars. Ramon's car in Mexico was yellow, and so yes, it's accurate. Thanks. No, I didn't choose a book cover. It came as a wonderful surprise to me. The photograph is was taken by one of Trotsky's guards in 1940, and it's the cathedral in Mexico City, and I think it's a powerful image, and I think a mysterious image, and I sort of imagine that they would use an image of the uh, one of the volcanoes, but I actually think this is better. I'm very pleased with it. When I saw it, I felt like I'd seen it before. It seemed very familiar. let's see. Yes, I did go undercover into the Harvard and Butler schools. Why Butler School? I wanted to write about economic inequality and um, and how the very, very rich live today, and the uh, getting this was a way to this is sort of a wedge into the story, and it's it was basically training to be a servant, and so that was one. Mexico, Trotsky was in exile in Mexico, and he was arrived in 1937. He was exiled from the Soviet Union in 1928, and Mexico was the only country that would take him because of the enmity of Stalin. And Diego Rivera arranged his visas. He went to the president of Mexico at that point, Cardenas, and asked for a visa for Trotsky, and that's what he was doing. Oh, there's so many writers that I admire and I like, and I think when I was a younger reader, uh, I loved Fitzgerald. I loved Hemingway, and I like Henry James. Uh, I spent a lot of time. Well, yes, it was a lot of time. Uh, Proust made a huge impression on me, and I could go on and on. But there's not just one writer that I like. What drew me to the Spanish Civil War, I've always been interested in the Spanish Civil War, and because I've never understood it very well, and it I always knew that it was important. I didn't know exactly why it was important, but essentially the historical facts drew me to the Spanish Civil War because uh, that's where the story starts for Ramon when his mother comes to the front to enlist him in this effort, and uh, so this and many of the people who were part of the assassination operation, the uh, assassination operation, were Spaniards and were refugees, and they went as the war was ending in Spain. All of these people had to flee Spain because of Franco, and most of them went to Mexico, or many of them did. uh, Thank you. Yes, a lot of people have said that it was like that the book is very cinematic, and I am grateful for that. I'm as a person, I'm pretty visual, and as a writer, I think I'm pretty visual. I like to describe the way things look as well as sound. And a favorite plot point in The Obedient Assassin. There, I can't say one particular plot point. If the question could be slightly more specific, I'd be happy to zero in on it. Oh, thanks. The title, we worked on the title a lot. A friend of mine helped me with it. Uh, we knew that we wanted assassin in the title, and at a certain point, I said, "What kind of assassin was he? What we need the assassin. What kind of assassin?" And I think the title works because when you say the obedient, you expect to hear the obedient son or the obedient servant or something like that, and 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 this throws you off a little bit. I think it has some tension in it. But thanks, I like the title too. Did I have any reservations about getting Sylvia and Ramon together under false circumstances? Um, no, not at all, because that's the way it happened. That really is um, the way it was done. My concerns were to do this and to maintain the reader's sympathy for Ramon. And Ramon was deceptive, but you know the reader needed to like him, and so that was a concern. But, but no, that was the story. Mhm. Are there any schools that I picked up in Butler School today? I'm a little more organized than I was before, but no, not really. And I guess I have higher standards as to how to set a table, but no, not really. That's a very good question. Did the assassin have an Oedipal complex or was he brainwashed? I think brainwash would be too hard a word, a stronger word for this. He lived at a time, and this was the propaganda that he was hearing. Uh, this was what he was being told. Just as if you're alive now, you might be hearing Tea Party propaganda or some sort of uh, you might be watching Fox News uh, and so the story is somewhat a cautionary tale about not believing everything that you hear and about being careful with propaganda. But as for the Oedipal complex, after after the assassination, uh, he was in the hospital for about 6 months. It was a prison hospital, and two psychologists were given access to him, and he was bored, and so they would go and see him every day. And in their findings, they decided that he had an Oedipal complex. But I think that he and his mother had an extremely strong bond when he was a small boy. She had this breakdown and she tried to kill herself a couple of times, and he was there. And so I think it was deeply ingrained in him that it was up to him to keep her happy and that he had to be there to save her. And so, but yeah, good question. Yes, Caridad is a larger than life character. She's a great character. And I was thinking earlier, another way to have started the novel would have been to begin with her when she left her husband in Barcelona and moved to uh, France with her children. And it was a period of time uh, right after, I'm not sure if it's right after or right before World War I, when there was this spirit of freedom in the air and adventure, and things were changing. And it was before the jazz age was starting, and all of that. And it was as if she heard this, and she had to participate. The other thing about her that is important, when she was an adolescent, she wanted to be a nun. She felt like she had a vocation in the Catholic Church, and she was only 16 when she met Ramon's father and married him. Her parents insisted she do that. So, in some ways, uh, her when she had left the church, she eventually, and when she left her husband, I think she felt incredibly lost, and uh, I think she replaced Catholic dogma with communist dogma, and uh, and I think that she was something of a fanatic, and I think that to do what she did to her family earlier, and then to do what she did to Ramon, it's it's all pretty extreme. Favorite plot twist. Hmm. Well, the amazing plot twist was when toward the end of the book when they're in New York and they're in the meeting with the Russian of Akimian, I think is uh, the name, and Ramon discovers at that point that he is the assassin, and he has for all of this time he hasn't known it, but at that point he realizes what his mother lined him up for. But there are lots of twists in the plot. I think that all of this identity changes and that sort of thing. But that's the major twist, I would say. No, I know about the book, but I didn't read the Barbara Kingsolver book, and in part, I think I glanced through it to see what it was, and I think I didn't want it to influence me, and I thought, well, what if it's so wonderful that I want to stop working on my book? But no, I didn't. I don't know the book. And thank you. It probably looks a little disorganized back there. Um, Another genre. I think that um, I'd like to do some more nonfiction. I'd like to do another nonfiction book because, uh, in some ways, it's something I'm good at. And the book that I'm thinking about writing, the next novel that I'm thinking about writing, is um, it would be a historical novel, but it wouldn't be set so distant, and it would be set in uh, it would probably start in about 1928, and much of it would take place in the 50s and 60s, and so and some of it would be about people I knew, and so it wouldn't be that same sort of deeply researched. Let's see, I know what this question is. Um, I Yes, there was many years of research, but I don't think a reader needs to know this period of history particularly. And the way I wrote it, the way I wrote it was to for people who might not know anything or very little about Trotsky and might not know much about socialism and communism at this point of in time in history. And so no, that's I had that in mind, and I wanted to write a book. My first idea was to write a book that would be fun to read, that would be accessible, and that would get the adventure and would capture the atmosphere of the time. Uh, mm, no, I didn't really have any concerns about the Olympics, and I think that, well, I was starting to say I think that world is such a different one than the one I'm writing about, but uh, who knows? Perhaps not. I don't. It's uh, it's somewhat alarming, and but no, I don't think so. Hi. Yes. Yeah. When I was first starting out as uh, writing for magazines, my third assignment was to go to Mexico and follow undocumented workers across the border, across the Rio Grande. And my editor said, "You have to swim the river." And I did it. I did the trip twice. I did it with an older brother who he had gone to Mexico to bring his younger brother back to Texas. And then about a year later, when the younger brother wanted to go home, I went home with him and then came and brought him back. And so, yeah, it was that was in the late 1970s. Oh, okay. Ramona, after he was arrested, she disappeared. She went to New York, and but she had promised that she would get him out of prison, and uh, she came back and was in Mexico City for a while, and she was uh, sort of circling. I don't think she ever saw him in prison or in Mexico at that point. Uh, but she apparently could not arrange uh, a prison break, and uh, and then it was brought to Ramon's attention that sometimes in prison breaks, a person being broken out of prison is killed, and that's a way to remove them, to take care of them, so that they won't ever testify as to what happened. So they didn't have contact at that point. Okay. Yes, Trotsky got a very bad rap from history, and uh, while he was still alive during this period, Stalin had already the started to rewrite Russian history and write Trotsky out of it. And you can see there are these wonderful historical photographs that you can see where in one you know there are these Lenin, uh, Trotsky, and Stalin, and then you'll see it the same photograph published in say a Russian history, and uh, Trotsky Trotsky will be airbrushed out of it, and the propaganda office of the Kremlin um, blackened Trotsky's name, ruined his reputation, and portrayed him as being a terrorist and a fascist, and everything that he wasn't. They said that's what they said that he was, and so today I was at Harvard when I was doing some of my research, and I didn't read Russian, and so I'd gotten a young, uh, I guess, a graduate student, a student to help me who was Russian, and she didn't know who Trotsky was. She didn't know anything about him. So, yeah, I think Trotsky got about as bad a rap from history as you can get. Um, so, yeah. Mm, thank you. I immerse myself in this material in all sorts of ways. A lot of it was reading, and a lot of the documents um, uh, you can hear I could hear I could get the people's voices, and so that reading other material, there was a book for Mexico City. I know Mexico City pretty well. It's a very uh, complex place. I mean, there are many different cultures. There are many different languages there. The history is very complex. I mean, the city's built on uh, an Aztec city, and there's still, I mean, there's still descendants of the Aztecs there. You can see them. But one of the things I did to try and find out what Mexico City was like at that point, because now there are 20 million people now. I mean, it's hard to um, find all of that. But I came across a guide to the city at that point. It's Terry's Guide to Mexico, and in fact, in the novel, I have Sylvia reading it when they go to the cathedral. And it was a wonderful guide, very scholarly, very complete, and so for Mexico City, that's what I did, and I went to a lot of the places, as many as I could. I couldn't time travel them. Let's see. The question is, why did I develop Ramona and Sylvia's relationship slowly? I wanted to show how it developed, and I think that for a reader, uh, that is an interest to see how it worked. I wanted to show how he was able to win her over, and my sense was that it probably developed fairly slowly. She would tell people that she was an intellectual, and that she wasn't interested in Ramon. He wasn't her kind of. She wasn't. He wasn't the kind of man she liked, and she wanted somebody to talk politics and philosophy with. And so I think that's accurate. Oh, it's two hard questions. When people ask me what time period I would prefer to live in, I always think, well, if I had to go to the dentist, what period of time would I want to be in? And it would probably be now. So I guess that's sort of um, a practical answer, not very romantic answer. I think the period in Paris after World War II must have been extremely exciting. I think that um, with Picasso and Hemingway and Gertrude Stein and all of those people being there at the same time working and inspiring each other. And I think um, that the life in Paris, the food, the wine, etc., it would have been uh, would have been it would have been wonderful. I guess the piece of history that I would like, if I could change it, what would I change? Um, I would say JFK's assassination. I would, if it were up to me, he wouldn't have been assassinated, and I think that our country might be someplace else right now. I I suppose I liked history as about as much as any kid, and I uh, I think that I'm not I don't think I was initially drawn to writing historical fiction. I think that this project brought me to it, and I I always thought that um, one, I thought I thought I didn't want to do that much research, and it seemed so labor intensive. But I'm glad I did it. It was a way to write and be completely immersed in something, yet be objective about it. And as you aren't always with different kinds of fiction, and particularly if you're writing about something that's sort of autobiographical. But but throughout the project and throughout the 10 years, pardon me, I could always say, and I always knew, and I could be objective about the story, and that it was a great, great story, and I could say that without necessarily taking any credit for. I mean, I knew it was a great piece of history, and there was great material there, and so this project got me into writing historical fiction. Let's see, the book's behind me. This is more self-produced, and I have a lot of proofs. This is a biography of Federico Garcia Lorca, who was killed in the beginning of the Civil War, Spanish Civil War. He's a famous poet and playwright. Um, some of these are books by friends, and what else would be interesting to look at? Uh, lower down, you can't see it, but there are a bunch of Trotsky books, and so Moby Dick, The Divine Comedy, it's a mess. Okay, the scene in Trotsky's office where Ramon leaves his hat on. Uh, yeah, that was great, and that's the way it happened again. And it should have been the turning point because Trotsky at that point, when his wife comes in, he says, "We don't know who she is." That no one from his background would, no man would go into another man's office and leave his hat on. And so yeah, it was tense, it was suspenseful, and it also makes you think, well, is Trotsky gonna, is he gonna snap to, and um, are they gonna close the gate to Ramon? Because that's all they had to do was is not let him in at that point, and that's what Ramon was. That's what he was hoping they would do. Mm, okay, who do I want to play the main characters? Okay. I think Sean Penn would make a great Trotsky. Um, Ramon and Sylvia. I don't. I'm not sure. I really. I haven't cast it yet, but I do think Sean Penn would be a great Trotsky. Somebody else uh, just today said they thought uh, Philip Seymour Hoffman would have been a good Trotsky. And, I think he was a good everything. So, but I don't know. My when I'm working, my daily schedule is to I always feel like first things first, and that before you get too distracted by the day, that you need to get to work. So as soon as I've had coffee and something to eat, and sort of taking care of um, the dogs and that sort of thing, I try to get to my desk, and I think I can. I can concentrate for about 4 or 5 hours, and then I do other things like pay bills or whatever. And I think that it depends on the book. I think that most people, I think a good writing day for most people is if you write 500 words, which is basically 200 2 pages. And so if you wrote every day for 365 days a year, which you don't, but uh, that's a lot of pages. That's 700 pages, and so it just depends on the project, and some go much faster than others. I love to travel, and I haven't traveled as much as I would like to, and but I've traveled a good bit in Latin America, and I've been to France and Italy and Spain, and I've traveled a good bit in the U.S. Um, I'd love to go to Vietnam, and I'd love to go to Japan, and I'd love to go to North Africa. So um, one of the writers who really did impress me, I guess, suppose when I was in college, was Paul Bowles and The Sheltering Sky, which is set in North Africa. And every summer when I went home for summer vacation, I didn't, my parents, I had to go home and work. And that was sort of my vacation. I would read uh, that novel every summer, and that was my trip abroad. Felt sort of the same way about 100 Years of Solitude with Garcia Marquez. I read that novel again and again just because it was like the magic carpet in his travel. Mm. Um, if I were to go undercover again, what would it be for? I'm not sure what it would be for. I wouldn't do it casually. I think it was a hard thing to do, and the first project with the Mexican brothers, they obviously knew I was not Mexican. They knew what I was doing, and I was undercover in terms of crossing the river and with the coyote who brought us across, and so that was much different than being undercover for 8 weeks and becoming friends with people who you couldn't say tell them what you were doing, and so I'm not sure. I would do it if for the right project, but I'm just not sure what the project is. Yes. Uh, oh, we have two corgis, and one is 10 years old, and his name is Walker. And then the puppy, she's about a year and a half, and her name is Valentina, and they are yes, those are our pets. My partner is Brazilian, and so for a long, long time, he insisted that when we got a little girl, she would be Valentina, which is how Valentina is pronounced in Portuguese. If I could co-write a book with a famous author of the past, who would it be and what would you write about? Hmm. Oh gosh. I don't know. I think I immediately think, well, who would it be possible to work with, and 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 someone that comes to mind because um, he did a lot of research and is Steinbeck, and for the Grapes of Wrath, he went on the road and followed the from Oklahoma to California, and I think went into the fields and with the farm workers, and so that's uh, a method I mean that I can relate to. Um, and what would I write about? What would we write about? I don't know. Sorry. I read a lot in my free time, and I've always gone to lots of movies, and I swim, and I exercise quite a bit. I like to cook. I like to have friends over and entertain, go out to dinner, and but reading has always been a mainstay. Oh, I just saw an Iranian movie called The Past, and it's very good, and uh, it's set in Paris, and it's one of those movies that um, the acting is good and the writing is good, and it never tells you everything. At the end of every scene, at the or section, you go, well, what about so and so? And so you're always curious, and so yeah, I recommend that. Mm. Um, I don't tweet, and I have a Facebook page, but I have never really used it very much. And when uh, what I have really liked lately, on my webbook page, people contact me through that, and I like hearing from people, readers, and I email back and feel like I'm sort of getting to know some people and vice versa. But I, for some reason, I've just never gotten started with Facebook. I don't quite understand when people say, "Did you see my post?" or "Right on my wall." I'm not quite sure that's you know. I haven't seen anything on walls that I particularly want to read. Yeah, but I'm a novice. So I'm sure I'm missing a lot. Well, uh, so far it hasn't been overwhelming responding to fans, and it's great hearing from people, and if you work alone and you write alone, and the communication is great, and I think that one of the ironies about being a writer is that you are trying to communicate with a lot of different people, and you end up being alone a lot. So no, I love to see emails from readers. What would I tell a young writer who wants to start writing their first book? I would, I think I would say, you know, um, pick something you really are passionate about. Pick something that will make that's going to keep your interest. Perhaps pick something that you can be uh, somewhat objective about, and um, and then think in terms of um, when you go to sell the book, who's going to be interested in it? Why are they going to be interested in it? And um, and be sure that there's some, just think about think about your reader from the beginning and think about uh, why they're going to want to read about what you have to, what you have to say. The television shows are so great now. There's so many great shows, and been watching Downton Abbey, of course, which relates to the story I did for Harper's. Um, been watching Girls, which I think is be great. I think it's pretty hilarious. I was a little skeptical at first. Um, um, just started watching Looking, I think The Wire was one of the great series. I mean, it's that did what that's like Dickens and Breaking Bad, and then I watched some sort of silly stuff like The Big Bang Theory and Modern Family, but yeah, television is great right now. There's so many good actors. There's so many good actors. Um, no, I don't write. I don't listen to music while I write. I always thought that that was one of the great things that painters had going for them, that they could listen to music. But I I think I think it would be sort of distracting. I couldn't hear the voices in my head quite as well. And and no, there's not a ritual for getting in the mood. I think that the truth is, if you wait to be in the mood to write, it just doesn't happen. You basically have to sit down and start working. And I think that the inspiration comes from working and comes while you're working. And and I think and I think the energy comes from working. I think you know that's how it is, or that's how it works for me. So my ritual is to turn on my computer and sit down and pour a cup of coffee. Okay, yeah, and I have a message here that to remind viewers to head to booktrib.com to enter to win a copy of The Obedient Assassin. And thank you very much. I enjoyed it. The questions are great, and it was a pleasure.